Warning. The following podcast contains spoilers for the film discussed, as well as strong language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to another installment of How Have We Not Seen? I'm Juliet.
I'm Nate.
I'm Mitch.
And welcome to the show. Alright, so this week, Nate got to pick the movie, and he's been getting a bit creepy about it.
Oh, come on. Creepy is not the word I would use to describe my choice. Terrifying, horrid, nausea-inducing. Those are all proper terms to describe John Carpenter's The Thing.
Which is a remake, as I understand, of the original.
The 1951 The Thing from Another World, which in itself is an adaptation of a 1938 novella by Joseph Campbell called Who Goes There?
Oh, okay.
So, guys, how have you not seen this movie?
Mitchell?
I've been meaning to for literally approximately 5 years, so I've just never gotten the chance to actually watch it. I've seen lots of video essays about it and videos and whatnot, so I have a general understanding of this movie, but I just haven't actually seen it.
I forgot that this movie even existed. The last time I heard about this movie was when we were in high school and one of the English teachers had the poster of this movie on his door. And since I've graduated, I haven't thought about this movie since when you picked it. So, yeah, just forgot it existed.
Well then, guys, what are your expectations for what this movie will be like?
You know, the title is so vague, but based on your reaction when you picked this and told us that this was the movie you were going to be watching, I'm expecting some bizarre things, maybe some sort of creepy-crawly things going on. I know Kurt Russell's in this. That's the only thing I know. So my guess is, he's the macho man hero and something creepy happens where he is, so he has to swoop in and save the day. Either that or he is the Thing, but I don't know what the Thing is. It could be Sasquatch for all I know, but that's probably not it. So I'm just expecting to be weirded out and a little creeped out, too.
Now, Mitch, if you have an idea of where this movie is going to go, say nothing, because I want, total surprise on Juliet's behalf.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. The only thing I'm gonna say is I would love a horror movie with Sasquatch as, the antagonist.
I don't know, I saw a terrible movie recently with Sasquatch as a character called Cry Wilderness.
Cry Wilderness.
Paul! Wake up, Paul! the costume is so shitty, you could see the zipper.
You know, I would love, a Sasquatch mockumentary, but, the guys who made This Is Spinal Tap, with, Christopher Guest and all those guys. I would love to see a Sasquatch mockumentary. Wait, have you guys not seen This Is Spinal Tap?
9.
Nope.
On to the list! Alright. What other, creepy crawlies that haven't been in, urban legends that haven't been in movies would you guys like to see a movie about?
Kappa.
What?
Kappa is a Japanese monster in their folklore, meant to scare little children, right? It's like a scaly sea monkey with a bowl of water on its head, and you have to trick it into bowing down so the water falls out so that it'll be weakened. Or you could throw a pickle with your name on it or something like that to distract it. If you don't, it'll stick its beak up your ass and slurp out your guts.
That's horrifying.
That sounds like a murderous stork.
There are some horrifying creatures in mythology around the world that do not get enough movie love.
Yeah.
Mitch, what would you want to see?
I'm not too sure, but I guess an idea would be, it's kind of stupid, but an idea would be a movie on the Loch Ness Monster, but not in,
Nessie!
Not in, a horror aspect. I want to see this movie,
Like a Disney cartoon?
You mean like Water Horse?
No. I want to see this movie, one person finds the Loch Ness Monster, but he's trying to prove that the Loch Ness Monster exists, and so he goes slowly insane via the fact that no one else believes him.
Okay.
Oh, okay, then that's not the answer I was expecting from you.
That'd be an interesting-ass movie, though, wouldn't it? And
Maybe.
It would be, kind of vague on whether or not this person would actually had seen the Loch Ness Monster.
I think for me, I have two that are kind of urban legends. One would be, because ever since I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, I really want a Baba Yaga movie with that Russian guy.
The Baba Yaga is a woman, though.
Yeah, but...
She's a hag with chicken feet.
Yeah, I guess ever since I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, I just want the movie.
When you say that guy and the Baba Yaga in the same sentence, all I can think is John Wick.
Are you Keanu Reeves?
No, in the movie, John Wick, he's his nickname is the Baba Yaga.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
I never knew that.
And they're like, oh, and one kid is like, oh, because he's the boogeyman. The guy's like, no, because he's the guy you would send to kill the fucking boogeyman.
I'm thinking of the Russian guy from Ant-Man and the Wasp that's like obsessed with the story and asks everyone if they know Baba Yaga and freaks out when the villain shows up and thinks that it's Baba Yaga. And the other one I probably want to see a movie about is, it's another urban legend. Have you guys heard of Père Fouettard?
Nope.
Okay. So I think it's actually Père Fouettard. Someone in the comments correct me, but it translates to Father Whipper. And it's kind of like Krampus, only in France they believe that the bad kids get whipped in their sleep instead of like just getting coal in their stocking.
Oh, if you think that's messed up, Icelandic gnomes.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Anyway, we're getting hilariously off topic
We
here.
are extremely off topic.
So, we'll leave you with Chicken Ladies, Keanu Reeves, and gnomes. And now we will go watch John Carpenter's The Thing.
Pray for us.
Wish her luck, specifically.
Uh-oh.
Bye.
Bye for now.
And we're back!
Oh.
So, Mitch, Juliet, what were your thoughts on John Carpenter's The Thing?
Oh, dude, you go first. Please.
It was good. It was more than I was expecting, quite frankly. I appreciated how... Well, I'll get into that later, but Juliet, what did you think?
This is my least favorite film out of all the ones we've reviewed so far. When I was bored, and when I wasn't bored, I was creeped out, and I was like, just die already, just die! Ugh.
It appears Juliet cannot handle horror movies that
Oh
well.
no, I could handle this one, but I was just either bored or I was like, just die already, or just have Blaine talk to everybody else about what's going on. Don't keep secrets from one another. These people were so stupid. I wanted to kill all of them. I just...
Well then, that was certainly something. Okay, first off, why do you feel the cast was stupid in this movie?
I feel like, was it Blaine the one who found out that,
I think it was Blair.
Blair, sorry. Blair found out there was a 75% chance of contamination. Why didn't he tell everyone the facts that he found out?
It was clear that he was not acting rationally. Probably the sheer horror of this situation. He's dealing with something completely outside of his normal context here. An alien entity that can perfectly mimic and assimilate like Earth life and could potentially end the world. This wasn't a case of, oh, he was scared, he was just going to destroy the equipment and then tell people later. He snapped. He went batshit bonkers in this scenario. That's why he was just spouting gibberish, screaming at how he'd kill everybody and breaking all the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I could buy that, but I just wished he, left something behind for them so that they could know what was going on,
They
like
were
maybe
studying
the
the
simulation.
notes.
Oh, yeah, true.
That's what, literally, Fuchs, based on Blair's notes, was able to say everyone should prepare their own food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I do agree with you, he wasn't smart, but that's...
No.
I would say that he was smart, but he went insane from the revelation, the
Yeah.
horror.
I mean, yeah, that's true, but also holding himself up in there wasn't the smartest idea either. Like, I understand that he was scared, but that's the whole point of horror movies. Not everyone's gonna act rationally and act in the best possible manner because it's a horror movie. That's where, everything goes wrong.
Yeah, Blair was clearly one of the smartest men there, and he broke.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know what it was like for you, Nate, when you first saw this movie. And Mitch, you know more about this than I do, but I wasn't scared throughout any of it. I was freaked out when I saw what the thing was, but, maybe it's just because our generation is so desensitized in terms of violence, but I wasn't scared at all. Were any of you guys scared when you first saw this movie? I mean,
When I first saw this movie, I puked.
Really?
I was
Holy
about to
shit.
say, you shouldn't watch this movie having just eaten lunch.
Yeah, this is a massive gore fest.
Holy shit, I
Nausea
thought...
fuel to the extreme. This is the pinnacle of the gross out.
CGI doesn't have anything on the shit that this movie did. I thought Mortal Kombat was gruesome, but I actually like the fatalities in Mortal Kombat, but holy crap, whoever designed the thing, and whoever envisioned that is a genius, but it's horrifying, and I hate you for making me look at some of it when I just really wanted to look away.
Rob Bottin was the one who did the special effects for The Thing. He worked tirelessly to the point that after filming, John Carpenter had him checked into a hospital for exhaustion.
Jesus.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good to know that his hard work didn't go to waste, because that was
Yeah.
the most impressive part of this movie.
All right, what exactly do you mean by you weren't scared? Were you expecting jumps?
That's what I was expecting. I was expecting jump scares or maybe like psychological thriller parts too.
What are you talking about? There was a psychological thriller aspect to this. Jump scares are cheap.
No. I meant psychological thriller in the sense that it got to your brain. You know what I mean? That it got to the audience's brain after a while too.
Well, yes, this movie is like the pinnacle of paranoia. You can't trust anybody in this situation. Anybody could just be a perfect replica of the person that you know. The thing somehow can even duplicate the memories. I'm like, Palmer was clearly already a thing when Norris got burnt up.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he was able to act like Palmer and just be like, you gotta be fucking kidding, when he saw the head crawling away.
That was the best
Yeah.
part of the whole movie.
It doesn't just mimic you physiologically and physically speaking. It mimics you in terms of personality and memory.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to tell that the thing is either if it transforms to assimilate you or the blood jumping. You are in one of the most isolated places known to man. The only place more isolated is fucking outer space. A continent that has no native inhabitants. A continent where it's regularly far below freezing, where winters are extreme, where nighttime can literally last for more than a day.
Mm-hmm.
In some places, 6 months of nighttime. Going out is suicide. You can't contact anybody. You are in whiteout conditions due to the sheer amount of storms rocking this frosty, hellish continent. You are completely isolated with this thing, and you can trust nobody.
I still wasn't scared.
God damn it.
Sorry, I appreciate your explanation. It was very thorough, but
I'd like to
It
say
just
that
went over my head.
our setting had something to do with that as well, I feel, because we were, we're a group of friends
yep.
in our friend's house where we know it's safe, but assume that we had been at theaters with a massive
I can get
screen,
that.
surround sound around people we don't know, that probably would have made it a lot more scary as well.
You know, I could get that if we were in a movie theater.
Yeah.
That might have creeped it out a little more.
I understand what you mean by it's not scary, though, but
It's not a jump scare movie.
Yeah, it's not jump scary,
No.
but I wasn't too horrified by it, but it was fantastic in terms of, like, a psychological mind fuck, I'm gonna say. I'm not even gonna call it a thriller, because I'm not even sure if it constitutes
It eats
that.
minds.
It eats minds, yeah.
To be honest, I thought this was just more of a sci-fi movie than a horror movie, because it deals with a lot of scientific elements.
Por qué no los dos?
What?
Means why not both?
I don't know, just I guess because, an extraterrestrial from another planet comes to Earth, and yeah, I was just getting this whole vibe of, like, they were trying to find out what it is, where it's from, and that and the fact that I just wasn't scared. I just saw this as more of, like, a sci-fi movie.
That's an interesting statement, especially considering how the novella Who Goes There, which the thing is an adaptation of, is much more of a bog standard science fiction story. Like, from the very beginning of the book, you know that at least some of the people make it and they know they aren't things. It's an after action report. They're giving a report on what had happened. And there's also some uncomfortable descriptions of MacReady as like a brazen god. Joseph Campbell was a notorious white supremacist.
Oh,
Oh.
really?
Yeah. He wrote this story in 1938.
He probably wouldn't have liked seeing this movie with Keith David then.
Ah, yeah.
Fuck him. Keith David was one of the best things in this movie.
I love
Yeah,
Keith David in
he
this
did a
movie
gr-
so much. Him and Kurt Russell were the best.
Just the voice of the fucking Arbiter.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh, yeah. He's been in a lot of other games, too.
Oh yeah, he does a lot of science fiction movies.
He does a lot of military people as well.
Well, he has the voice.
He
He
does.
He also narrated one of Ken Burns' documentaries. He narrated the one about baseball, and he was in Princess and the Frog as Dr. Facilier.
Really?
Yeah, that's him. That's him singing the villain song too.
See, I actually haven't even seen that movie, so I had no idea.
All right, that's gonna go on the list.
No, I've seen Princess and the Frog.
Oh, okay, so we can't put it on. Also, can we take the time to appreciate that Kurt Russell has aged really well? He still looks pretty good. Like, it's obvious that he's grown older, but he still looks pretty good compared to how he was in this movie.
He's
in
aged as
1982.
well as the liquors his character drinks in this movie.
I haven't
Yes.
seen current Kurt Russell, but I'll take your words for it.
Did you see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
Oh, was he the dad?
He was the dad.
Oh, yeah, he
So,
aged
yeah.
real well.
Yeah, He looks real good.
Anyway,
Can I ask you a question before we go on to the next part?
of course.
Do you know how this movie was marketed, like when the trailers came out?
I know that the poster had "Man is the warmest place to hide."
Oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, interesting. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if your sentiments were shared initially by the people who first saw this movie. When this movie first came out in 1982, it bombed financially and it bombed critically. Probably because this R-rated gore-fest horror about an alien creature was like a snowball flung at the warm, optimistic sun of an alien movie called E.T.
I love E.T.
Exactly. Literally the highest grossing movie in the world at the time, going up against this paranoid gore fest.
Yeah.
It's no wonder it bombed in theaters.
I'd rather watch E.T. than this movie, though. I just want my little E.T. and his Reese's Pieces.
I like this movie. This was a good movie.
Would you rather watch this or E.T.?
You know,
That's
I
an
can't
unfair
choose.
question, and you know it.
That's like
No, I'd rather watch E.T.
That's like asking if I'd rather have like a delicious handmade salsa compared to like a sugar cane.
What?
No.
What?
It's asking if I want a nice steak or a fantastic cheeseburger.
I like my analogy better.
Sometimes
I don't like your... Continue.
it's, like, I fucking love E.T. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, but I don't want to watch it at any given moment, necessarily. Sometimes, like when I'm in the cold of winter and I want a bit of paranoia in my life, I want to watch The Thing.
When you want a bit of paranoia in your life.
I want to talk about something at the beginning.
Good.
So, at the beginning, when the dog, I'm going to call it the dog. I know it's the thing, but I'll call it the dog to differentiate the thing's form. When the dog goes into the room with the shadow on the wall, at first I wasn't too sure who that was. I thought that was, what was it? Knowles at first, because of the hair, but I think that was actually Palmer. I think he was already, at that point, the thing.
Yeah.
That explains
I
it,
think
okay.
that because he was always on being kept under watch.
Mm-hmm.
At any given point, people were keeping an eye on him, so he couldn't do the
Yeah,
kind of shtick. I thought you were going to comment, actually. This movie would have been spoiled if you spoke Norwegian.
Yeah,
Yeah, what
probably.
do you say in Norwegian? Do we
He
know?
was saying, "Do not get away from that. It's not a dog. It's a thing from another world. It's an alien. It's a monster. Like, don't touch it. Like, we need to kill it."
I kind of
I-
had a feeling that was the gist.
Yeah.
I feel as though that actually isn't really a spoiler per se, because you could pretty much, like, if you know the thing is going to be a monster, like, even if you don't know anything else about this movie, that you just know there's a monster, you could probably figure out the dog is the thing. within
Juliet
the
didn't
first-
figure out for a while.
No, I figured it out, like, after a few seconds. I was like, oh, look at the dog. Wait, why are they shooting at it? Oh, wait a minute, they're shooting at it because it's the thing in disguise.
Yeah.
Although it was quite amusing, the juxtaposition between what you thought this movie was going to be versus what it actually was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought it was going to be like...
The
Yeah.
look of horror on her face when the dog thing started transforming for the first time is something that I will cherish.
Oh, screw you!
Anytime, anywhere.
Screw you and the horse that brought you. Oh my god. The Thing, again, the guy who made it, good job. That was amazing, but still, I did not want to look. It didn't make me sick to my stomach. I didn't feel like I was going to throw up, but I was like, I feel bad for some poor sap who has, like, a weak stomach and consumed, like, a full 3-course meal before watching this movie. Like, oh, bleh.
Yeah, honestly, like,
Ugh.
the, what is it, practical effects were, I've known for a while that they were fantastic, but actually just watching them in action, it's fucking fantastic. Especially the way they did the organs, because,
Oh,
they-
yeah.
you could tell you've nailed immersion very well when you have a person in the audience literally attempting to look away from the screen.
Mhm. And
Nate-
some
Nate-
son of a bitch next to her won't let her just have sanity intact.
Yeah, Nate was literally,
Ugh.
like, looking at her, looking away from the screen. He's like, no, you have to look at the
He
screen.
pushed my head at one point. You pushed my head.
This son of a bitch, Nathaniel.
SOB.
You have to appreciate it. The horror is
I
beautiful.
don't want to appreciate it. I also felt really bad for the people that had to do autopsies on the thing. I was like,
Oh.
this is not what they went to medical school for.
Oh, yeah. Like,
There were-
Definitely is
There were a
not.
lot of moments of brilliance about how just out of their depth they were. Like,
Mhm.
when Blair is looking at the burnt body, not the first one, but the one after they have the whole encounter in the dog pen, you can see him studying the body, thinking, because normally when you do an autopsy, you already have a clear-cut, pun intended, plan of where you are going to begin. With this, he has no idea what he's going to do. He has no idea what he's going to find.
You might as well throw a dart at the dartboard and see where it lands.
And hope that the dart doesn't eat you afterwards.
Even during when they first find the first body, the one where it's just burnt and smoking, like, even then Blair was just completely fucking, like, dumbfounded and completely disgusted.
All of them were.
This was fantastic casting and obviously good acting.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there has not been a single scene where none of these characters were disgusted. They all brought that to the table very well.
What was really creepy in this movie was, you know how they tore off the piece of Mac's clothes and they all thought that Mac was the thing?
Yeah.
Just the fact that the alien knew that the thing knew that by tearing off that piece of clothing, Mac would be framed, and that would throw everyone else off the scent. That was pretty creepy.
That's horrifying in, like, the fact that it's that intelligent.
It knows to leave a false trail, like, ugh.
It's horrifying from an existential point as well.
And here's a question. We don't know who did it.
Yeah.
We don't know who tore up Mac's clothes and left them out to be found.
Palmer?
Maybe it was Palmer.
Perhaps.
Maybe it was Blair.
It
Maybe it was someone else. For fuck's sake, we don't know at the end if Childs was a thing or not.
That's a good point.
Ooh, we don't.
I'd like to think he wasn't. That's me though, because
I think John Carpenter shared that same sentiment. I could have sworn he did. I could have sworn he got involved with a video game adaptation many years later.
He did. I wanted to talk about that later.
I think he said about how he considered it like a pretty good canon, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, they find Child's body frozen and like he's not a thing.
I think the reason for me as to why Childs is not the thing is because they mention as a prominent point in the movie that the thing rips up the clothes when you take when it takes the person. His clothes were pristine as fuck.
It can be more subtle as well, actually.
What do you mean?
If it takes longer, it doesn't need to. Well, like with Norris, you literally saw the point where Norris was fully assimilated.
Yeah.
When he started going and clutching at his chest.
I thought he was having a heart attack.
I knew he was.
That
like,
was the moment where he started becoming fully assimilated. It must have been a smaller particle that was allowed to slowly take over him, just like with Blair, perhaps.
That's true. Yeah, the fact that he was drinking the alcohol. Like,
also, an interesting bit that Blair didn't have glasses on by the time he was assimilated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Which, in fact, if you consider the shitty prequel to be canon, the shitty prequel deals with what happened in the Norwegian base.
Oh, really?
Oh, that sounds interesting.
It's not.
Oh.
But, they make a point that, like, maybe the thing would have to spit out implants and fillings because, it can't replicate inorganic materials such as metal or plastic.
That makes,
it's possible. One could argue that maybe the thing would just keep them inside when it's assimilating, but Child still had his ring, his earring.
He did, yeah.
So maybe Childs was, just human at the end.
Yeah. That's true.
But ultimately, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how a movie ends. The uncertainty of just these two dudes who have no idea if the other is an alien that could devour the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just waiting for the fires to die down on the most inhospitable continent known to man.
Yeah, I just assumed that they both died at the end, eventually. I mean, they've blown up their base, no food, no water, no way to communicate the U.S. government. Nothing. I just assumed that they died.
One thing you could also talk about is how theoretically, Mac could have been the thing at the end. I mean, I know it shows him blowing it up and the fact that he jumps away and runs away, but off camera, anything could have happened. He could have been assimilated, just damaged, using the alcohol.
But why would the thing blow itself up?
Well, no, like, what I mean is, like, he could have failed or something to blow it up at the end, and then off screen he just gets assimilated.
No, I'm firmly in the belief that Mac was human at the end.
I agree.
The real question is Childs, and as long as they don't know that, they can't do anything.
I agree with that. Like, I don't think Mac was it, but there could be some argument for it, I believe. And one thing I want to talk about is, you brought it up, the video game adaptation for this, because I haven't seen this movie, but I have seen people play this game. I'm not exactly sure where it starts, but I saw a section of it where it was Mac, Childs, Knowles, and Gary. They were the main character is Mac, playing as Mac, and
Actually,
he's in control.
the main character isn't McCready.
Really? Who is
No, you were just playing like a random soldier, and at the end, the helicopter pilot who rescues you is McCready.
it? Oh, really? I must have been remembering then. But the thing I find fucking fantastic about the game is, like, you have this group of 3 other NPCs, and eventually y'all get separated. You never know. You know, it's not scripted. It's actually random who becomes the thing. Like,
oh, cool.
one playthrough it could be Gary. One playthrough it could be Knowles. It's actually such a brilliant game design choice.
Are we talking about the same video game? Because the video game doesn't cover the events of the movie. It covers the aftermath.
Which game are you talking? Is yours on the Xbox or something?
I don't remember.
Maybe there's 2 of them, and I'm thinking of a different one, but I just find it incredible how you could have these, like, 3 individual NPCs that one of them could be the thing, but you don't know. It actually, like, it's inspired by the movie, not just by the setting and plot, but also in terms of the mood, the thought process, everything. And I think that the fact that they brought it over from a movie to a video game was a good choice, because in a movie, you'll obviously feel the things that people in the movie are feeling if it's well made, but in the game, you're not just feeling what something else is feeling, you're feeling what is happening. You are directly in the medium.
I think a better way to put it would be like you're not you're not feeling empathy, you are experiencing.
Yeah, you're directly experiencing it.
Alright, there are some other things I think we should talk about a little bit, such as maybe some backstory about how John Carpenter was a huge fan of the original movie adaptation of Who Goes There, called The Thing from Another World. In fact, he literally uses, like, the same intro, like the burning through.
Oh, no way.
Really?
That's from the original?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. And, of course it's different. I think the thing in that one's like a plant thing. Monster. It's humanoid, walks around. They track with a Geiger counter. In fact, I'd argue that Alien is more closely related to that movie than this movie.
Really?
Huh.
What's your opinion on the first one?
It's of its time?
I'm sorry. The 1982, this movie that we just saw is so much better than the book and the first movie and the shitty prequel. It's painfully better.
Really?
At just, like, the effects, the atmosphere, the characterization. Oh my god. This is a surprisingly large cast for a horror movie.
Yeah.
And yet, we already get such a good grasp of the characterization.
Who starred in the original movie? Anyone famous or?
Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, your mom said.
Yeah, by the way, this is a cast of like 12 people. I always have a set of notes during these movies to write down names so I don't forget them. Literally, as I'm writing these down, I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, how many people am I going to have to remember in this?
Alright, but before we get into the cast, I think another tidbit that would be interesting to talk about, an example of how much John Carpenter liked this, in his first, like, major movie, Halloween, which was made in 1978,
Oh
4
my God,
years before.
He did that?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No!
What else did he make?
Why can't I remember this shit off the top of my head right now?
My coworker would know.
I think he made They Live, which also had Keith
Are you
David in it.
serious?
Yeah, John Carpenter is quite an accomplished filmmaker.
Cool.
But we're digressing a little bit. In Halloween, when Laurie's babysitting, you know what movie the little kid is watching?
The Thing?
The Thing from Another World.
Oh.
And then 4 years later, John Carpenter got to make a better version of that fucking movie.
Can you imagine being John Carpenter in that moment?
Oh.
Do you think that was, like, hinting at the audience that this was going to be, like, one of his upcoming movies? Like a little nudge?
That's more of a faint hope than anything else, I'd argue.
Oh.
Probably just a niche reference. Well, not
Yeah.
niche, but like a reference to a movie he adores.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of how David
Yeah.
Tennant got to be the Doctor in
Oh,
Doctor
yeah.
Who.
And he was a uber fanboy.
Major Uber fanboy. To the point where he married one of the Doctor's actor's daughters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think
I
it was
didn't
number
know.
4.
I didn't know that. Okay, then. Back to,
It's a good relationship. It's not
okay.
just...
So John Carpenter,
Never mind.
another thing about it is, I think he did somehow, he managed to take a concept from a flawed novella and purify it, so to say, in terms of themes and make it better. The Thing from Another World just like its author, it's pretty racist.
Was it?
I don't mean like they're saying like the N-word, but there is a very unfortunate implication of xenophobia because how the main character is this brazen god with like a shock of red hair and all that, and they're viciously weeding out aliens, like the others that are pretending to live among them, and it just feels like
A lot of racist undertones.
Exactly. Like literally when they find out that people are things, they don't burn them. No, like the people gleefully just start ripping them apart, and it's horrifying.
Oh my
And I
God.
don't know if Campbell was consciously aware of that. Fucking
Jesus Christ.
exactly. I didn't like Carpenter managed to take a flawed novella and purify it into the ultimate paranoid fuckfest.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what you were saying earlier about the 1951 one with the undertones of racism.
No, I'm talking about the book.
Oh, the book. Sorry, excuse me. When you're talking about the book, that reminds me of, you saw Lindsay Ellis's video essay, My Monster Boyfriend, right?
Yep, it's been a while though.
Yeah, basically, from what I can remember, she talks about how the other in, like, Universal horror movies or in sci-fi horror movies, basically, some people saw it as, like, that was representing people who were, like, outcasts in society at the time.
Most especially King Kong, I would argue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some dark implications that we will cover when we eventually watch King Kong. Because,
King Kong will be fun.
yeah, Mitch and Juliet have not seen the original King Kong.
Nope.
I've seen some of it.
But not enough.
Not enough.
Alright, let's delve into your list, Mitch. Let's look at
Alright,
the
let's look at the
characters.
characters.
Oh my god. Okay, well, looking at these characters here, we've already discussed Palmer,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, he was blazed the entire time.
Oh my god.
When he was human, that is.
I wonder
Yeah.
if there was so much weed in him that that's why the thing took so long to manifest. Just like the thing itself was fucking high.
I'd like to think it's actually kind of funny, because you could tell when Palmer was human based on how much weed he was smoking, I think.
Actually, well, one could argue that also just the severity of the situation was why he wasn't smoking.
Yeah.
That was also a giant
But seriously, like, it
joint-year-old.
was surprised how fucking sarcastic the Thing version of Palmer managed to be. Like, when it's about to get its secret revealed, what is he doing? He's just, like, rolling his eyes like, oh, shit, well,
Yeah.
can't be helped.
Yeah.
I wonder if the Thing had a good time while it was stoned too, like just sitting there watching TV reruns, eating chips, having profound thoughts.
I don't think at that point it was even the Thing, right?
Yeah, I think the dog hadn't encountered him yet.
Yeah.
Okay. But it still probably had many opportunities to be stoned afterwards.
Probably.
But,
That joint was huge.
There are some, like, who else do we want to talk about? Like, the way that these characters managed to be fleshed out so quickly is quite astonishing.
Fleshed out.
One thing I want to talk about is window. I want to talk about
Windows.
First, is it
Oh,
window?
Windows.
Plural.
Oh.
Windows? I liked Windows.
First
Poor
of all,
dude.
fantastic name. Secondly, I want to talk about how when Palmer turned out to be the Thing while everyone was tied down, Windows was like getting his head bitten and all that shit.
Yeah,
When he was starting to come to and he was burned by Mac, do y'all think he was actually the Thing, or do you think that
He was making the sounds.
Yeah, he was the Thing.
I didn't.
He
hear
was making the
sounds.
sounds.
Oh, I didn't hear those.
He was.
Yeah. And,
I thought it would have been interesting.
Poor Windows just got, like, the shit stick before he died. Like,
Yeah.
Like, first he got terrorized by Blair.
Blair, yeah.
Yeah, when Blair was tearing apart the
Yeah.
radio room, like, he had been attacked, and then, like, he was the one who had the biggest breakdown at first when they all realized they can't trust each other. He was the one who went for the gun because he was freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, you know, he's always subjected to that distrust, and then finally, when he's able to get a chance to prove himself, he gets numbed right in the head.
Mm.
Oh, and that was not a pleasant way to go at all.
And you could also argue that at the very beginning of the movie, when we first see him, he has the short end of the stick too, because he's trying so hard to contact somebody else. To
And
let
they're
them know
just
what
like,
they
oh,
found.
yeah, blah, blah, blah. Why we haven't contacted yet? And he's probably the guy who understands the radio the best, and he's just thinking, do you realize how impossible this is?
Yeah, he's on edge from the get-go.
He's like your average Walmart worker compared to the manager.
Oh.
I'm kidding. Not all managers are bad. One of my friends is a manager. She's great.
Also, The one funny thing was when he fell asleep. I felt bad for him, but when he fell asleep and they cranked the sound on the radio all the way up on his headphones.
Oh, yeah. They treated him like garbage.
Yeah, that wasn't cool.
And of course he had to slice his thumb to get the blood. Oh my god.
I thought he was going to rip his nail out.
That's one of the worst places to get blood from.
Yeah.
Using your hand in general is awful. You know how long it takes for hand injuries to heal?
That is what I cringed at the most in this movie.
Yeah, I was like, why such a deep gash? Couldn't you just, do like a little pinprick or something?
Oh my god.
Jeez.
I couldn't do that. I'd have to have somebody else do that to me.
I'd have to be knocked out, honestly, and be like, just punch me in the face.
No, I wouldn't trust him. If he knocks me out, how do I know he won't gnaw me?
Oh, yeah.
Good
There was
point.
that scene with, scene with Doc.
Yeah, these guys were on sleep deprivation.
Yeah, especially Mac. He hadn't slept in,
oh my
days.
God. And you could hear it in Kurt Russell's voice, too, as he spoke.
Mm-hmm.
Just had, that edge of sleepiness to it.
The fact that he was, we're gonna move on to Mac now. The fact that he was also, probably the most coherent, or at least the most rational in this, is also interesting.
And it's, interesting because this is a research station, so you're assuming that most of the people here are scientists, and you also got the technicians, such as the radio operators, such as Windows. And who is the one who pulls everything together and, ostensibly anyway, saves the day? Not the brilliant doctor or scientist Blair, who cracks.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's the helicopter pilot.
The drunk.
The drinker.
He's not
And,
a
you get a
brilliant...
brilliant moment about how he thinks compared to the others when he loses the chess game.
Oh, yeah.
What does he do? No. He just pours water into, or he pours his drink into...
His scotch.
Yeah, he pours his scotch in the machine.
And the others, that's a good
the others
computer.
will have just tried to play the game. When he realizes what's going on, how it's a cheating bastard, I'm pretty sure someone pointed out that it was a cheating move that the computer used.
Really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
What he uses to do, he breaks the machine. The thing is a cheater. It uses stealth and manipulation and deception to try to win. So what does Mac do? He blows up the base.
Foreshadowing and symbolism with the chess.
Hey, nice.
Also, was it just me, or Kurt Russell has this very distinct voice when he talks. And I don't know why, but parts of it kind of reminded me there was just a hint of Jack Nicholson in his voice when he spoke. Maybe I was the only one that heard it. Not like Christian Slater and Heathers, but I don't know. They just had a sort of, there's something similar about the cadence of those two actors. I can't put my finger on it.
I'm not too sure about that, honestly.
Hmm.
One thing I do want to mention, you just brought it up, how the chess was a symbolism and whatnot, with the chess master. It would be super interesting to see this movie from the perspective of The Thing, because to The Thing, this is just a game of chess, really.
Ooh.
Peter Watts, a critically acclaimed science fiction author, not a big fan of him, but that's for another story. He did write a story called The Things, which is a story from The Thing's perspective as it.
Ooh.
And The Thing is horrified by humans because of how we're physically unchanging and cannot physically connect with one another. We're just kind of closed off tumors with brains from The Thing's perspective.
That's an interesting point of view, yeah. I didn't even think about it psychologically. I just wanted to see how it would strategically try and get people alone or something just to get them assimilated.
Can you imagine if The Thing was playing the chess computer game?
It would have become the computer.
Could it have been able to become the computer, though?
It becomes cyborgs.
No. It's shown that it can't replicate
Yeah.
inorganic matter like metal.
At that point, it just becomes Gary's mod prop hunt.
Okay then.
Fantastic game, by the way.
But
Oh, prop hunt.
okay, let's go through some of the other characters. Who else do we want to talk about?
Who have we talked about?
We've
already?
talked about McCready. We've talked about Windows. We've talked about what?
We touched on Palmer.
We also talked about Palmer. Let's talk about.
I want to talk about Clark.
Oh,
Okay.
Because, he was super attached to those dogs.
Well, of course he was the guy who took care of them. He's the guy who made sure they were in shape and fed and ready to do their job.
I felt so bad for him when he saw the hatchet buried through that one dog's neck and he just kind of slumped against the fence.
I thought he was going to go ballistic at that point.
Yeah, I was half expecting him to fucking shank Blair.
Well,
honestly.
He almost went ballistic when Max started shooting at the other dogs when the Thing was attacking it.
Yeah, that's
He was
true.
he tried to get in there and Mac was like, no, get back, you don't know what you're dealing with.
Exactly. You can tell the way how he talks. He's not the most, he's far from he's the least sociable person there.
Mm-hmm.
He barely talks. When he does, it's straightforward, to the point, kind of an odd cadence. And then it's only when he's with the dogs that he actually shows, like, any sign of, like, being pleased.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's when you hear warmth in his voice, when he's talking to the dog.
Yep,
Mhm.
that's true.
Also, looking back on it now, Clark was definitely the red herring of this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
I had a feeling that he wouldn't have been the thing, but, it could have gone either way, in my opinion. It was kind of tragic how he did die, though.
Yeah.
Like,
And they just gloss over the fact that when Child says to Mac, well, he's not the thing, so you're a murderer, and he just keeps going because he has to. I'm like, okay.
Well, to be fair, he was going to fucking shank,
yeah,
Mac.
like, it
No, he
was
was gonna shake him,
self-defense, but I found,
Clark was unstable towards the end. Like, he was...
Yes.
yeah, he was very unstable.
Like, it was, like, when the dogs went, his brain went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, the way that you could tell the actor for McCready did a fantastic job. Because, like, as soon as, like, he realized he shot Clark, he was just completely taken aback, like, holy shit,
Yeah,
I
he
just
had this
did
look
that.
on his face, yeah.
Like, I just did that. Like,
Or-
he was ready to kill,
Or
but he
how
just...
about the slight shift in his eyes when he's talking with Fuchs in the
Yeah.
tractor, when Fuchs
Oh.
points out that the thing is still in the base, and McCready, like, it isn't like over dramatic, he isn't just like, oh shit, like, just like a slight widening of the eyes, and he looks up and he's looking at Fuchs, and that's when you can tell behind those eyes that he's realizing the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about Fuchs, because I feel as though if it wasn't for him, everyone would have died.
Yeah.
He's the one who informed Mac about everything.
He found
Yeah.
the notes.
Yeah, after Blair cracked, he was the smartest guy of the group.
Oh, yeah.
Into, like, the possible tactics they could use.
Also, the fact that he goes outside to try and see who the thing was. He literally at least this is how I interpret it. He sets himself on fire so that way the thing can't assimilate him.
Which that takes some balls.
That is incredible.
Yeah, he willing to sacrifice himself so that the others have a fighting chance.
Mm.
Yeah, that was awesome. Like, not the fact that he killed himself, but the fact that he's willing to do that.
Take one for the team.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, and like,
And that's something the rest of them do at the end.
and one could also argue there was a bit of a red herring with Fuchs, how he's talking about how, the thing would have to isolate people to attack them, and he's saying this to McCready,
As they're
whom
both
he
isolated.
isolated.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
I was thinking that too when I saw it. I'm like, opportune time to strike.
Alright, other characters we could talk about.
Let's talk about Childs.
Child.
I want to talk about him. Oh, first of all, Keith David. That's just purely why I love this character. Like, when I saw his name in the credits, I was like, I knew there was a reason I recognized this actor.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how, like, none of the actors in this movie that were African American, like, lived up to this stereotype in horror movies that any African American character is always the first one that dies. I
Yeah,
like how
like,
this movie
literally.
did not do that.
Like literally, Niles didn't die. Like, Niles didn't die on screen. If he died,
Yep.
we don't know.
He made it to the end of the movie.
And Child, seemingly, is alive at the end.
Yep, the Child, excuse me.
Yeah, Child.
Yep.
And also, like, how he... Like, I like how he was, like, one of the more belligerent ones of the group, pointing out just how bullshit some of this... Like, someone needed to call McCready out on his shit, and if no one else was going to do it, it was Child's. I mean, like, yeah, we kind of know Kurt Russell, he's the big name star. We know that Kurt Russell is not going to be the thing.
Yeah.
But the others don't know that!
Yeah.
Mm.
Like, if I was McCready, I probably would have done my blood first so they wouldn't have,
Honestly, yeah.
And Childs was the first one to be skeeved out by the whole thing. Like, he was like, this is some voodoo-ass shit.
Yeah.
He's something along those lines about this being like voodooism and stuff.
about the whole, about the fact that there is a malevolent alien life form.
Yeah.
And a giant spaceship just sitting out in the ice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
And
my
also
gosh.
just like, of course, it was like it was perfect that Childs was the other character at the end of the film. Because these two characters who had the most adversarial relationship is now the pinnacle of them not being able to trust each other, and now they're just waiting for the fires to die out.
It's like
Yeah.
the equivalent of being lost on a deserted island with your enemy, and you have to rely on each other to survive, or at least
Yeah.
stay sane.
Or, like, I mean, like, if it had been other characters, like, if it had been Windows, like, McCready probably would have, brown-beaten him into another test or anything like that.
Mhm.
And if, Windows was refusing, McCready probably would have torched him. But Childs had a torch as well. And Childs was, you would expect him to be adversarial. So, just this mutual distrust towards the end of they're just waiting. It was like he was a fantastic character in that regard.
Mhm.
Childs, You're the man.
Then what else? Who else could we talk about?
I mean, some of these characters didn't have as prominent a role as
Like
a lot.
Null.
I mean, Knowles was he was good.
He was. I feel like he was the most like an audience surrogate. He was the easygoing one of the bunch, so to say. Like you represented by the fact that he's going about the base on roller skates.
Oh yeah.
And then like as the paranoia grows and all the horror is unleashed, like he's just reduced to a quiet staring. Like he's like a fucking fish.
His eyes were just
horrified.
bulging out of his head.
Bulging out of his head, just staring at everything in horror. Like in the beginning, we see him crack jokes. Like maybe we're at war at Norway with the Norwegian, and then there are no jokes from him for the majority of the movie. Once everything goes to hell.
Yeah, out of everybody, he was by far the most scared, at least visually.
Yeah, like he looked like he was the
youngest as well.
Yeah.
He looked he was goddamn like our age.
And like also like
Probably,
the fact that he wore an apron. I wonder if he was the one just in charge of provisions, like the cook.
Oh,
yeah,
probably.
because he was mad at them for throwing out their, well, what he thought was them throwing their long johns in the trash in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's on rollerblades. He probably
He's
is
not
in charge of supply.
Yeah, he's not a scientist. He's not a fighter. He's not a skilled technician. Like he's just the poor. He just thought he'd just be here for a few months cooking food for a bunch of guys,
Yeah.
and now all the fucking sudden there is this hostile alien shape-shifting gore mass with teeth and eyes and dog parts.
You know, saying that now, I wonder what his motivation was for taking the job in the first place. What did he want to leave to come all the way out to Antarctica?
Maybe he wanted to explore.
Maybe it was monetary stuff, because I'm assuming that job would get some cash.
Oh yeah, they
Probably a lot for going all the way out over there.
especially in winter.
Oh god.
Antarctica in winter is notoriously bad for your mental health.
Yeah.
Some stations you have to get your appendix removed before you're allowed in.
Yeah, like, and also, as we were watching this, as of the time of recording, we've been having, like, a cold spell over here, and so, yep, it felt realistic watching them out in the cold. It was just like,
Yeah. Even our, the living room we were in was getting pretty chilly.
It was, actually, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of, is now a tradition for at least one Antarctic station, right on the last day of sunlight, to watch this movie.
Are you serious?
Before the long night begins.
No, that's
Aw.
mean. Don't put those poor scientists through that. They just want to see the penguins. Come on.
The penguins? What if they're in the North Pole, though?
Then they
No, it's always the Antarctic.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Antarctic.
They just want to hang out with the penguins. Don't put them through this. All right, who else is left on the list?
Oh, there's quite a people. Like, let's talk about Doc. Poor Doc.
Yeah.
He was easily the most amiable of the group.
Yeah. Like, he was there with McCready when they first went to the Norwegian base.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to, like, keep everything calm and whatnot.
Mhm.
He's
Like,
the one
he
who
was
thought of the test, too.
Yeah, and like he was also pretty rational when trying to explain away various things, and he wasn't overly hostile, even when people were starting to think that maybe he was a thing.
Yep.
And the way that he went was just so awful.
Horrible.
Like, that was the first scene I had ever seen from The Thing. Just that.
Yeah.
That torso. Oh, someone is,
No, I thought that was great. How they're going clear, and then his stomach just caves, and I
Yeah.
was like, yes.
I saw that
Oh.
scene online years ago, and I was just waiting for that moment in this movie. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm next to Juliet, I wonder how she'll think about this.
I was like, this is great. This is great.
Fun fact, they used a double amputee for that scene.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, to better simulate the whole your arms just got bitten off
Oh,
bit.
Jesus
Oh.
Christ. The fact that he, like, they technically weren't bitten off. He ripped his arms off trying to get out. That was
Yeah.
horrifying.
Also, who is the character the Thing took over?
Norris.
Norris. All right, he was the one that got like the little spider legs and started crawling out of the room.
Yep.
All right, can you imagine if someone took that scene and edited it so that as the Thing was walking across the floor with those spider legs, you just hear the Mr. Krabs walking sound effect from SpongeBob?
Please, no.
Please, yes, someone please make that for me. Watching this movie will have been worth it if this does exist.
I could theoretically make that.
Yes,
someday.
dude, do it, please.
Norris was also an interesting character. He was definitely quiet,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
quiet
also
type.
friendly. And, like, he himself was also suffering from the paranoia. Like, the actor was talking about how he played the character. Like, in that scene when Gary is like, Norris, you want to be in charge now. And Norris is like backing down. like he said in that scene, I was imagining that Norris himself didn't know if he was a thing or not.
Yeah.
This movie's the best example of cabin fever I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And, like, I only now piece it together somehow. Like, I was wondering about the thing that came out of Norris's torso and it started clinging to the ceiling. I realized that must have been the repurposed biomass from Doc's arms.
Oh, no.
Jesus.
Oh, that just got darker.
Chewed up the arms and spat them out as a freaking screaming...
That's like a suction cup for the ceiling.
A neck with, like, 4 fucking Ks in it.
It reminds me of how a Palmer version of the Thing. He literally shot himself out of the chair he was tied in onto the ceiling.
Oh yeah, that was freaky.
That was horrendous.
Or how about his head splitting open and the tongue coming out?
Piranha Plant right there.
Oh. Well, I was just going to say, that was one of the scenes that had freaked me out the most.
The first time I saw the Thing, when it was coming out of the dog, I thought of, like, the Gorgon from Stranger Things. For some reason.
You mean the Demogorgon?
Demogorgon, excuse me.
I wonder where the Demogorgon got that inspiration.
I was about to say, it was like, now I see where that came from.
I suppose the last character we have is Benny.
Well, do we also talk about Blair yet?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, we did.
We talked about how he cracked.
Yeah, the noose just casually hanging there.
I don't think he was going to hang himself, honestly.
I think he was getting ready to destroy himself in a way if he got infected.
Yeah.
I feel as though that was just used to gain some sympathy from the other characters to try and get himself back in the base.
Yeah, just fucking Wilford Brimley, and I have diabetes, going nuts and destroying the...
What?
That's him. He's the guy from the commercial. I'm Wilford Brimley, and I have diabetes.
Wait, I've never even seen this commercial.
Yeah, he was also from the Pepperidge Farm commercials.
He was at Pepperidge Farm?
Yep.
What?
So a lot of people now, in retrospect, just seeing the Pepperidge Farm commercial, then all of a sudden they just see him in this movie going batshit nuts.
Oh my gosh.
Also, I love how he's like, let me in, I feel better now. Kurt Russell was all, not this Monday, and closed the door in his
He's literally
face.
closing it. I feel as though, like, yeah, I understand they were all under a lot of stress, but if they had just said to him, listen, man, we'll get you in a little bit, like, maybe that would have helped him psychologically a little better.
Anyway, back to Benny. Bennings. Excuse me.
Yeah, that guy got it bad.
Which one was he again?
He's the one who got shot.
What? Yeah, he was the one who got shot in the leg by the Norwegian.
Oh, yeah.
He was the
Poor
first
Bennings.
visible human thing.
Mm-hmm. The way it was like how, Windows just runs into the room and all thing just sees like the tentacles just going all over his bloody, shirtless body was...
He had it theoretically the worst, in my opinion.
Who was also the guy that said, I've known Bennings for years, we can't do this to him?
Gary.
Yeah,
Poor Gary.
I was like, Gary, don't be the character in this movie that screws everyone else's up.
Gary was initially kind of presented as a hard ass.
Yeah,
he was.
How he's the one who shot the Norwegian through the window.
I thought
how Windows was cracking a joke. Palmer was cracking a joke about how what was it? The big guy finally got to fire his gun.
Yeah, I thought Gary was going to be the villain when he was first introduced.
Well, I thought Gary was going to be the leader or something.
Exactly, and then all of a sudden, what happens is he becomes one of the less important members when the whole paranoia breaks out. He steps down and he's like immediately under so much suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
The paranoia completely inverts his leadership role and makes him one of the bigger targets.
Can you imagine being Windows? And you go out of the room to grab something. I forgot what he was doing exactly. And you come back. And due to the fact that you left him alone, Benny is now being assimilated into this horrific thing.
Yeah, that would be a lot of guilt.
That'd be horrible. And the fact that Benny's thing, he was just running away. He didn't even try to downplay the fact that he wasn't the thing, because he was visibly the thing. So, at that point, he was just like, yeah, I might as well go nuts as the thing, instead of trying to play this off.
Or, another thing we could talk about is... the way Gary went was just awful as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
How'd he go out again?
Oh,
yeah. When he got it in the face.
Oh,
yeah.
the mouth.
And then, it took me so long, a few rewatches to notice that shot of, the now fully merged face. And, how now that long arm is just dragging the body behind him. That was...
Like it's a carry-on suitcase.
I understand Knowles. But damn, he should have said something.
I think Knowles just kind of lost the will to live right then and there in that moment.
Oh.
All right.
The poor guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, poor everybody in this goddamn
Poor
movie.
everyone. Yeah.
Especially the dogs.
Well, we want to talk about the shit end of the stick. How about that Norwegian who accidentally messed up throwing the thermite grenade?
Yeah.
If he had aimed that right, this movie would not have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If instead of something out of a comedy movie, accidentally throwing it back behind you, if he had managed to throw it forward, the blast probably could have hit the dog. And then he could have finished it off and burnt that fucker. And yes, a few people in the Antarctic station probably would have been killed in the blast. But the world would have been safe.
Also in this movie, there was so many times I thought the thing was gonna kick the bucket. I was just like, please just die now. Please just die. Please just die.
Yeah, she
was
said that a lot.
Yeah, every time, as soon as rubber and latex started shifting and melting, she was going, "Oh no, just die."
I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, please let this be
the
over.
way they accomplished a lot of this was pretty impressive. Like the bit where Norris's head's like, coming up.
Yeah. Oh god.
I think what they did is they literally put it underneath a hot lamp and they melted the head off.
Wow.
Oh,
that's
Like the stuff you saw spilling out and like popping out was wax, like hot wax.
Nice. One of my favorite parts of this movie wasn't even the movie. We got the house had a phone call, and so Nate took it because it's his house. And the movie's paused, and Juliet's like, "Wait a minute, this movie's only an hour and 10 minutes long," and I'm like, "No, that can't be right." And then we play it, and it starts counting down, and you're like, "Oh no, this movie has an hour and 10 minutes left."
Oh, yeah. I was like, no.
Oh yeah.
I was like, thank God it's gonna be done soon. Oh, come on.
Oh my gosh, that was the best part of this movie.
No, that was the worst part of this movie. Shut up. All right, what do we have left to talk about? Mitch, I see you have some notes written down.
We've talked about basically everything. I guess the last thing I want to talk about is how the immediate jump from finding out what the thing is to suspicion of Clark by Blair. Yeah, like that is what really set this movie up for disaster. Blair being suspicious to an almost fault. Because I feel as though if he had said what he had said to everybody, maybe things would have been a little bit different. Like, they would have been able to deduce the blood test a little bit earlier before potentially somebody cut all the blood out. It probably would have changed this movie's outcome.
But that's what paranoia does.
Yeah. Especially in the Antarctic, where no one is around for miles and miles.
It's so fucking cold. All right, want to do our last thoughts?
All right, guys, it's time for your final thoughts. I guess we'll start with you, Juliet.
All right, if you are a horror film enthusiast, or if you are a sci-fi enthusiast, then definitely go ahead and watch this movie. If you are not, then don't watch this movie. It's a waste of your time. I'm very sorry, Nate. I know you love this movie.
I'm still shocked that you were bored.
I was very bored when stuff wasn't happening, when the thing wasn't there and they weren't killing it.
But you've also been talking about how well they captured the atmosphere of paranoia.
They did, but I was still bored. Yeah, personally for me, it was just... I remember thinking in my head at the time I'd rather watch The Room than this.
Wow.
Because at least with The Room, I'm gonna laugh. Mitch?
Wow, what the hell?
I still...
You know, if we ever make it big on the internet, you're not going to be popular for that remark.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe we should cut that last one out then, or not.
Oh, no,
We'll
no.
see.
You reap what you sow. You diss this movie, you deal with the consequences.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you know what? I ain't taking it back. To quote the late Tom Petty, I won't back down. Mitch, your turn.
I'm not sure what to say after that. It's a fantastic psychological movie. I suppose psychological thriller is a good way to put it. It definitely has elements of horror that, like Juliet said, horror enthusiasts would find appealing. And I haven't seen any of the other adaptations, but according to Nate, it is a major jump up from that. So good job on everybody involved in this project. Overall, just a fantastic movie.
I see that you are a man of culture as well.
Oh, shut up.
I can understand where you're coming from, Juliet, though. It was very slow pace. Not slow pace, but it did have a lot of...
it took its time.
It took its time and made sure there was a lot of downtime, which some people really like because it builds tension. At least, that's how I interpret it as.
Yeah.
But for some people, it might just be boring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's different for each person.
Yeah.
Alright,
so it's my turn to introduce our next film for our next episode. Guys, the next film we're gonna watch is Ever After.
What's that?
It is, I will just basically say it as, like, historical fiction romance. And it has one of our favorites in this movie, Drew Barrymore plays the lead.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
What I won't say too much because, it'll go into it the first few minutes. But this movie, when I Googled it after the first time I watched it, parts of it are pretty historically accurate with what it talks about. But the fantasy parts are purely fantasy. You'll see what I mean. It's mostly a fantasy, but they tie in some history, and the history matches really well.
Nate's already going to look this movie up.
No, there's like a nagging sensation in the back of my head that tells you that maybe I've seen this movie before.
If someone has seen this movie before, then I probably wouldn't be surprised. Because it was very popular when it came out.
Maybe my mother's seen it.
When did this come out?
I want to say late 90s, early 2000s. Like, my mom saw it, introduced it to me, bought the DVD for both of my cousins, and my dad doesn't normally like movies like this, but when he watched Ever After with us, he went, that was okay! So from him, that's high praise.
Oh my god.
Alright guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of How Have We Not Seen the Podcast. As always, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. So long!
Later.
Bye!
Hello, Internet, and welcome to How Have We Not Seen the Podcast. I'm Juliet.
I'm Nate.
Say your name, dude. That's the only way we're going to be able to tell is if you say your name.
I'm Mitch.
Alright, say something else, Mitch. Alright, that concludes microphone test number 2.